The following program, offered by Fox 19, includes lawyers licensed in Kentucky. For those lawyers to maintain compliance with the Kentucky Bar Association requirements, the phrase, "This is an advertisement," must appear on the screen. Moore Law is underwritten in the public interest by the Moore Law Firm, a legal professional association. This is Moore Law on Fox 19.
Good morning and welcome to Moore Law. You know, American veterans put everything on the line to serve our country, so getting fair compensation from the government would seem automatic. But many vets find themselves fighting another big battle, this time with the Veterans Administration over things like pensions, disability, and injury lawsuits. So it's crucial to know how the claims process works, when you can appeal, and what rights widows and dependents of veterans have. If you are a military vet or a relative with questions about veterans' legal rights, give us a call at 513-421-4691. Don Moore, good morning. How are you?
I'm doing great. How you doing, Deb?
Very good, very good. How was your week? I haven't seen you in a week.
Well, you know, one of the things we got to do was we celebrated both Dan, who's also on the show, my son, and my wife's birthday, Pat. On Saturday, grandkids came over. We had a good time.
Sure was a nice day to have everybody over and be outside.
Yeah, and this it was a great weekend and a lot of stuff on veterans and the sacrifice they make for our country. So we thought today would be a great day for a veteran show.
Perfect. And would you like to introduce our guest?
I would indeed. Mike Mooney. Welcome, Mike.
Hello.
Welcome back.
That's right. Welcome back.
You're our first repeat visitor.
He's a veteran. He's a veteran here. And Mike has been practicing for over 40 years in Cincinnati, and he is a member of the National Organization of Veteran Advocates, which is not very many people, that's kind of an exclusive thing. And he handles veterans' disability and medical claims, and so he's here to help us put on a really great show.
Great. And you know, Mike, you and I were talking briefly, and I was shocked by when you said how long it typically can take for veterans to get benefits.
I'm very honored to be here today on Veterans Day. And this is a day when our nation salutes the veterans instead of vice versa. And you'll hear lots of good things about veterans, and everybody honors them and respects them. The problem I have is a lot of times it's just all on the surface, because there is a system that's designed to serve them called the Veterans Administration, Department of Veterans Affairs, and it's a broken system. And kind of the dirty little secret is, after all the parades and everything today, the reality is every veteran who has a claim pending at the VA can probably expect it to take another 4 to say 20 years for that claim to be resolved. The VA is pretty good about denying claims quickly, especially in Ohio, which each state has its own VA office in Ohio, grants the smallest number of cases, grants it the lowest amount, and takes the longest amount of time. So if you're in Ohio, it's not a very vet-friendly place if you have a claim. But it can easily take 4 to 20 years for the case to be resolved. And that's tragic, because these are individuals. If they win, and at the end of that 20-year period, they may get a huge check, and that's a wonderful thing. But they would have liked to have had it while they were living their life, not while they were, you know.
Right. So Mike, why so long? What's the excuse?
It's a system that I genuinely believe was designed to be excruciatingly fair, and there are lots of rules that are veteran-friendly rules that make it easy, in theory, make it easy. But it's such a complicated system. I'm an attorney, and I barely understand it. I mean, it is constantly changing. I spend all my time studying the rules, and then you get staffing. You know, the staff in the VA system is relatively modest. It's a modestly staffed program, and so they don't have the resources, really, to do the number of claims that are pending, given the complexity of the claims. If the claim process was simpler, if the way you prove your case was simpler, if it didn't have so many rules, it might breeze through faster. But right now, they're just, given the way the program is structured, it takes forever.
Okay. Well, let's try to help some folks navigate the system a little better. First up, we have McKean in Covington. McKean, I understand you were in the Gulf War. Thank you for your service. And, okay, McKean, I don't think you're there anymore. I apologize. We have Isabella. Isabella, please go ahead with your question.
Please.
Isabella?
Yes.
Please go ahead.
Yes. When my husband passed away, we had 6 children, school age, and we received a check every month. And as each one graduated, you know, the check, the amount went down. Mm-hmm. But after the last child was out of school, they just cut the check off. And I have a brother that was in the Air Force, and he keeps telling me I should be able to get a check from the veterans, but I really never knew how to go about it. I've been a widow since 1968. I never remarried anybody or anything, but I don't know how to go about it.
Okay.
That's a good question.
It's a complicated question because there are, like I was saying initially, the VA's, it has lots of rules, and it has a variety of rules for widows. There are 2 different widows programs, one for widows of husbands who died because of something related to service, and one for widows whose husband died for unrelated symptoms. Each program has its own set of unique rules. They're very complicated. I would have to know a lot more about your husband's service, whether he was service connected, that type of thing, to be able to give you any kind of accurate answer. Certainly the way you want to approach it is, if you're trying to start your case, you can file it with the VA. They have an 800 number, which is 1-800-827-1000, or you can go to your local VA office. There was one in Cincinnati at 3067th Street. Ohio is the only state that I'm aware of that has a branch office. There's an office in Cleveland, and we have one down here. Most states it's just one. But you could file your claim there in person. You could go to the county veteran service office. Each county has a veteran service office. So.
Okay. All right, well, we hope that's helpful. We're going to take a break right now. We'll be coming back talking about veterans benefits. Give us a call, 513-421-4691.
Welcome back to More Law on Fox 19, your legal questions live, with local broadcaster and award-winning reporter Deb Haas and Cincinnati personal injury attorney Don Moore, recognized by Ohio super lawyers. More answers, more help, more law on Fox 19.
All right, we take you now to your More Law Connection, where Dan Moore is answering viewer emails. Good morning, Dan.
Hey, Deb, how you doing? We've got our first question about DUIs, and the question is, how do I get a DUI taken off my record? The answer in Kentucky and Ohio is different. In Ohio, you can't do it. There's a statute that says that if you have a DUI, you specifically cannot get that expunged. In Kentucky, however, you can under certain circumstances. In Kentucky, if you have only one DUI, and it's been 5 years since the ending of your conviction or your sentence, you can get it taken off. You should be aware, though, that when you expunge records, you're only expunging the records related to the clerk of court system or the public record that someone could walk into the courthouse and get. It doesn't seal the record that somebody has already gotten. A company, for example, a data mining company that perhaps obtained the record before the expungement took place. That's going to still be out there. But as far as in Kentucky, if you want to expunge that DUI, you can do that. Deb, back to you.
All right, thanks a lot, Dan. We are back talking about veterans benefits today with our guest, Mike Mooney. Thanks again for being here.
Sure. My pleasure, of course.
Well, thank you. And we had a caller earlier that we lost, and I think you wanted to address this question. I believe it was about that they just couldn't find his records.
The problem, it's an absolutely maddening problem. Veterans, while they are in service, obviously if they have medical problems, they go to the facility, they get medical care, and then when they get out and they want to apply for disability based on something that happened, either a physical injury or an emotional trauma in service, the first step, of course, is to get those service medical records, because that will document that this event occurred. And 99% of the time, those service medical records are mysteriously missing. And it is true of every single era. It's true of Gulf War guys. It's true of Vietnam guys. It's true of Korean War. Those records just mysteriously disappear. And it makes it that much harder to prove their case. There's court law that says in that event they get some brownie points. It makes the burden of proof is a little easier. And there are ways around it. One of the things I did on a case was my client had emotional problems in service, And we found a sergeant, and of course the medical records were gone, but the sergeant signed an affidavit saying yes, he had emotional problems. I sent him to a psychiatrist.
So
and that was all we needed.
ways to navigate
There
it.
can be ways, and based on that, we proved the guy had problems in service, and he got $350,000 in back benefits.
Okay.
Okay, very good.
All right. Let's go to our next caller. We have Tasha in Kentucky. Good morning, Tasha.
Good morning, ma'am. How are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
I'm doing good. I have a question. My mother was a veteran. She passed away in '93. Me and my brother was under the age of 18 when she passed. We did find out recently she had full benefit because American flag 6-men salute was done. I want to know legally what can I do about the home that they took back and sold before we was 18?
The answer is nothing. I mean, unfortunately, whatever happened back then, whatever your rights were back then, you had to deal with them. But mostly, children don't succeed to anything. When the parents are gone, there's nothing. The VA system doesn't really provide anything for adult children.
Okay. All right. We will head back now to Dan with another email question. Dan?
Okay, our second question is a personal injury question. It's from Nick, and he asks, I had a broken ankle at my home, but then I was in a car accident that made my ankle worse. I'm having a hard time with the bills now because the insurance company said my ankle wasn't hurt in the accident. What can I do? Well, the rule is, just like any injury case, is the insurance company is responsible for what the crash cost. The trick is figuring out if you have an old injury, what was caused by the crash, and what would have been caused without the crash you would have experienced just because you had an injury. Well, the way you do this is with a doctor. You go to your doctor, and you can ask your doctor to write a report, or you can ask your doctor to come testify for you at trial. And what he does is he says in his report the treatment that's caused by the crash, the degree to which your old injury was exacerbated or made worse by the crash, what future care is going to be required as a direct result of the crash, and what you wouldn't have had to have if the crash didn't occur. So the doctor's the key in these personal injury cases, so you have to communicate with him. If you have a question, go to the Fox 19 website, go to the More Law tab and fill out the Send Us Your Questions form and click Submit. As always, we'll do our best to answer your question. Deb, that's all I've got for today. Back to you.
All right. Thanks a lot, Dan. And we'll take a break right now. We'll be back with More Law talking about veterans benefits. 513-421-4691.